Hi, this is Camilla Blossom, and welcome. I'm really excited to offer Gardening with Gaia, co-creating magical gardens with the new earth, or for the new earth. And I have my beautiful friends here, colleagues that are into land alchemy, have worked with me in my course as well, and they work with land quite a bit. They have over the years, and lots of magic making and strong connections to the elementals and the ancestors and the plants and flowers. So I thought it'd be really fun to do that with Aliza and Beezy. And we're all gonna share our stories of how we have worked with creating magical gardens, designing, coming up with them, how we've worked with the flowers and plants and the fairies and elementals and gnomes. But also I don't even know what they're going to say. So they might have some wonderful more stories and ideas that I don't even know about. But I just wanted to kind of bring this inspiration, these experiences, these stories, and tips for everyone that would like to engage more deeply. I know I get this question a lot when people know I'm into fairies. They're like, I want you to come to my garden and help me work on it. So this is part of that, answering that invitation. Great. And so we'll be sharing these things really with the intention to help you or show you how to align more, connect more with the unseen and seen realms of nature. So much of what we do is in that physical seen realm, but the real power is when you start to work with the subtle energies, the magic, the fairies, the spirits, or the energy of a place. And so there's so many different spirits you can work with. I'll be talking about some when I talk about my unicorn garden, and I'm sure we'll hear more from Aliza and Beezy. And then just to kind of say really the importance of why you would want to create a magical garden. For one, it's such a fun and beautiful experience. If you are into gardening, if you're into, a sensitive empath, a lot of people here with this that connect with me are there's such beautiful experiences and fulfillment and joy and healing that come when we're working in our gardens. It's like a place to get in the flow. Nature is our healer, and more I think people are realizing the issues we're facing are because of a disconnect with nature. And so working with a garden has a power for healing us, but also what's really magical, and you'll see that as we share these stories, is it's not just about the healing that we receive, but what we give back in the process. And also I see that these magical gardens create these fields of energy, especially when you create them with intention, that they're very powerful for Gaia. They're very powerful for feeding and nurturing and nourishing all of life, the plants, the elementals and fairies. And so it's really a delight when we can come in this stronger co-creative and reciprocal relationship with nature. So before we go in, I just want to do a little centering and have us all connect more. And then Beezy's going to share some of her stories, and we'll have some pictures too. So we'll take a moment and just put your hand on your heart and take a couple really deep breaths and move into your heart space, your heart, your divine self. And as you breathe in and out, really connect with the love that you have for yourself and for all of nature. And we're going to connect into the beautiful crystalline grid of Mother Earth, the spirit of Gaia, and welcome ourselves to connect with her, her spirit, her grid, her communication system. And through love, know that this is the language of nature. When we speak from our heart, through feelings, I'd like to invite in the different fairies, elementals, mermaids, gnomes, dragons, different beneficial ancestors of the lands. I know I'm in Vancouver, Washington. Aliza's in New Jersey, and BZ is in the Olympic Peninsula. So honoring also the indigenous spirits of each of those and indigenous tribes and peoples of each of those lands. I know in my lands, it's the Cowlitz, Chinook, and Yakima. So I can feel a circle of the land council joining us and celebrating. And I know they just love when we share this. So open yourself to that language of nature, just through your heart, staying dropped in, grounded, let yourself feel. That's the most important way to receive this information or inspiration or stories, is to let it come through the heart and work with the fairies and spirits on your land. Nice. I love hearing all those chimes in the background. Yeah. Yes, call them in. Nice. Feels so sweet and light, and you may sense fairies and different spirits that you know about, or even new ones wanting to come forward. So we'll open that doorway, that magic doorway. And BZ, you're welcome to share a little more about yourself and what you're up to and your work. And then I'd love to hear about, and we can also do more of that at the end too, but love to hear more about your adventures with creating magical gardens for the new earth, and just what inspiration you want to share. And I have some photos too.
I've always loved plants and gardens, and I love to dance with them, not only in gardening and growing things from seed or cuttings or different ways to bring go to a place and that I can take a cutting and bring things back. But I've designed and built gardens for people for years in all parts of the country. And for me, you were talking about it's a way to heal oneself. Absolutely true. And a really big thing that I think is come more and more the last few years as the energies change. It's a way to hold yourself. So within that is a component of healing, but it's holding, so you're connecting back with all of yourself, and you're realizing there is this beautiful seamless web of communication, of emotion, of interaction, of energy, and you're not separate from from anything. One of the things that I guess you could say was one of my signatures when I was doing gardens for people is they'd say, well, gosh, I love your flowers way back when I was on the East Coast, and I was have flowers at the farmer's market, and I'd grow over 180 different varieties of flowers for cut flowers. And people say, well, wow, can I come see your gardens, or can you do a garden for me? I'd love to have that. And that was to go and feel the land and just talk with the person about their, walk around their yard, either see what they had or see what the space was. And the garden area or the land or yard or whatever space they had, even the deck, would tell me what wanted to be there, what plants or flowers or what feeling wanted to come. And very often there was a nice match between what the owner was talking about, or there'd be something else, and I'd say, well, have you ever thought about, whatever idea was suggested by the land and the fairies, and they'd go, so that's how they would come about. And I wanted to share for this one particular story because it was a number of gardens. It's on a place that I was working for 7 years, and putting new gardens in different places on it was quite a large property. And the land would say, we want to have an herb garden. As I would stand and look at it, I could see through the videos that come into me, the plants kind of come up out of the ground and be there. So, okay, so that was fun. And that's something I've been doing for years, and it was just getting stronger. And in this moment, I think it was the end of 17, beginning of 18. So I was planning what kinds of things I would do for all these gardens. Some I had already put in and some new ones I was adding. And I thought, well, I'd love to really just see if there's a way to raise all of, clearing out, stuck energy, and raise all of the frequency, because the energies were already coming in of the new earth and the higher vibrations. And I wanted to support a tapestry of the gardens that were in different places to come and do that. And so I sat for a while outside, even if it was winter, and made some drawings and tuned in with that, and had lovely videos where I was connecting with all the elementals in the winter, dead of winter, about what would come forth, what they wanted to see. And then got lots of different seeds and grew stuff from seed, or went out and bought some other plants. And so I started just some new gardens and some old. And it was, I would say the biggest thing is connecting through the heart and being in a dance of communication with wherever place I was working on, and having an intention. And my intention wasn't so much a specific form or shape. You can have different styles of garden. My intention was to support and enliven the rising energies, and to have a beautiful dance with the plants, the fairies, elementals, all of the trees, all of that come in together. And and so I went about my way and doing all that, and I had different things that would occur in each little garden area, but I had lots of colors and mix, and lots of hummingbirds, came, a couple different species. But you can show the first one with the blue flower, the picture.
Whoops, I got
it. And this was taken
to the screen.
Share the screen, yeah.
Yeah.
This was taken, I believe it was June 6th.
Sorry.
Well, that one's fine. We can start with that one.
Okay. Whoops, I think you froze. Oh, okay, you're there.
Yeah, you can go with the other one for a sec.
Okay, I just have to find where it went.
It's a vertical.
There it is.
With the blue flower.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. So, yep, great. And so imagine a place that has it's a big private piece of land, and it's lots and lots of acres, and lots of pastures and small houses where staff would live, and then big house where the owners would live and stuff. But you have this, green and trees, and I'm trying to paint the overall pick rose garden, and there'd be another kind of a shady glen, which would be lots of fairies would hang out there. But as you drove through this place on the internal roads, so just dirt roads, and with the exception of occasional motorized, but you could go through this slightly undulating field, and the air was alive with the new earth, because these gardens were in different places, and with this intention. And the butterflies, the air space was thick with butterflies, not a myriad of species of butterflies and moths and hummingbirds. And you literally had to think, do I need to wait to cross the street before this? They were everywhere. So you look, how sometimes you look at the little tree fluff and the little fluff is dancing from the trees and you can kind of see the cottonwoods and stuff like that. Well, this was the same thing, but it was butterflies and moths and all sorts of, little birds and hummingbirds darting back and forth with all the colors and all the flowers. And I laughed and I thought, well, this is actually what I had thought and envisioned. But it was, so the whole place was just alive with this whole weaving of things, and they were everywhere. And the people who worked on the place were like, we've never seen this before. This is like some kind of fairy tale thing. I said, well, no, it's the energies. And everyone's coming to play. So when you brought this idea forward, the whole videos came back internally of all of this. And part of it is being in your heart. And whether you know a lot about gardening or not, it doesn't matter. If you're there from your heart and you have an intention, and your intention is open-ended, maybe is a good way to say it. So, instead of it has to be, all columnar flowers, like this one is a delphinium, so it's tall spikes, or rounded flowers. You can show the next one if you want, the one you had up before. And so, you can have particular preferences for yourself, but also ask, what does the land or what comes to heart? Or if you're going to a garden center and you're looking at different plants and flowers, but that's where you can be in your connectivity with all that is. And, you can go right up next to these, talk to them and say, I'd love to take a picture of you, and someone fly away and say, no, I don't really want to. Or someone say, yeah, this one actually sat for quite a while in differing a conversation, and while it was also enjoying with his proboscis into that's a Japanese iris. I'm sorry, Louisiana iris. And so I would say have fun with it and have intention, no matter what your experience level of it is, whether it's experience level in gardening or your experience level in the subtle energies, and being able to hear your own guidance, or, notice or connect with the elementals or the land and that kind of thing. You are connected, you're not disconnected, because you're animate, you're walking around. So you are connected to all that is. And just honor that. So even if you don't feel it yet, or right in this moment, because things are swirling out in the chaotic stuff that's going on, go through your heart, and you could even imagine seeing things, using your heart to view things as that filter. And you'll see brighter colors, more colors, you'll have more scents that'll come to you, and fragrances. And that's how we connect and how we strengthen it.
Beautiful. I love to, just to kind of bring this forward a little. Well, first, like how you shared your experience, but also like how other people can relate, because we're all different. And I know for you, you get a lot of videos and images inside, and not everyone does that. But that you gave some different ideas for, how you can approach it. But I also just want to share, a lot of people like want to see fairies. They want to, like, that's a big thing for people, wanting to see fairies. But I love how you really described like the kind of explosion and beauty of nature all around, and even the movement of it, right? And the butterflies and the moths and the different things, like that is the fairies. Like anytime there's these magic things in nature, just know they're there. Like, even though a lot of us don't see them, like that, just for people to trust those experiences that seem very subtle or magical or whatever they are, to just know, like, yeah, or even like when leaves wave at me, like, oh, they're talking to me, or you feel a little breeze, like for people to recognize, like, yeah, these are the elementals and fairies and they're in communication, and to know that's one of the big ways, right?
Yeah. Well, listening, and it's listening for the answers, however that may fold. One of the first things, if you were to hire me and say, well, I'd love you to have come and talked about the garden and then build a garden, one of the things I would do is I would bring a milk crate, and after I'd met with you, I would come another time or later on, and I would sit on the milk crate near the area and just sit and just be with the space that's there, whether it was a garden project to revamp or just hard ground that wanted to be turned into a garden, and see who came to visit, see what came to heart, see what thoughts floated in. So again, for people who are not, maybe they don't think they've had that, if you're just quiet for a few moments and not, and let go for a moment of I want to see the fairies, right? Then just sit and go, hi, I think you're all around. I'd love to see you. And I'm just going to be with the thought that you're here. And so little thoughts will for a moment and think about the garden that you want to create. And all of a sudden, a thought of a specific shade of color will come, or a particular kind of flower, or something that you may have a memory as a child of being someplace, and if you're sitting in a meadow and you pick a flower and you're looking at it, and you may take the buttercup and put it on your chin or your nose or something like that. Those things come into you. Or you may be going to the garden center, as I said, and walking sense or have a thought. That's part of the communication. The fairies can actually come with you, even if it's in an etheric way, from your location
Yeah.
to where you're going to. Maybe there's a local plant sale or something like that, or a roadside stand, and they've got some plants. So all of those things will come in different ways for different beings, and similar ways. But be receptive to the listening part and not attached to how it will come in. And that's when you can see them more, because you may see them with your ears or your thoughts or that kind of thing. And as you play with that and you smile, that whole lights up your body, then more of that connection will be invited.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think to add to that, and then I want to open to Aliza's ideas, is that sometimes it takes a while. Like I remember moving to this one place with my son, and I said, yeah, I think I'm just supposed to sit on the deck and or be out where the garden area is and just wait to hear from the spirits here, the fairies, the ancestors, whoever, what wants to be in the garden. And so I waited 3 weeks, I sat, it took a while. So I think also for people to be patient, some people can be really quick and get intuitive, yeah, sit, and it can happen right away. But at other times, it may just be you need to really rest and integrate and be there and tune in. And then all of a sudden, after 3 weeks, I heard this little voice, take a stake and put it in the center and then make a circle around that with a string 10 feet. And then I ended up making this beautiful circle, crossroads medicine wheel type garden. So yeah. Aliza, do you want to?
Yes, I do.
Again, I know you have bursting with excitement there, so share whatever. And then if you also go into your time.
Yeah, so I kind of have the opposite background to BZ. I grew up in the city, and I had this tiny little piece of, my parents, my family had this tiny little area in the back of the house. And it didn't matter to me. I would go outside and sit in my little patch of grass and just be there. And by the way, I knew absolutely nothing about it. We didn't have a lawnmower, nothing. I would sit and cut the grass with a pair of scissors. But that was my way of connecting with the land when I didn't have anything, but I still loved it. So it's just, it's one thing to let you know that you can connect no matter what it is that you have. If you have one plant in your house, you can still connect with it. And then later on, the house before this one was also a fairly small plot of land, but I would just buy whatever my heart desired, and it ended up being very magical. At one point, I would see the sun's rays come in through the garden, and I would take these pictures, and all the colors would be there, shining down into the center of my garden. And I didn't know what I was doing, really. Not a clue. And so now I'm on a piece of land which is about 3/4 of an acre. It's on a mountain. And it's been such a learning experience for me to understand how to connect with it. It really has been difficult. And it's been a process. And so when Camilla says, be patient, be patient. So my land is very profuse. It's very abundant in many ways. And so that means in weeds as well. So I've been really, at first it made me angry. And then at this point, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. And so I am just going to enjoy doing what I do. So the way I do it now, I connect with sound. I have chimes on my deck. And when I hear those chimes, I know the fairies are here. And I have a fairy altar also on my deck. So I connect through sound, I connect through my voice, and I also connect with the colors and with the intoxicating scents. I happen to be one of those people who loves viburnum and lilac and anything that has an intoxicating scent. So that's how I connect. So if you wouldn't mind putting up the picture of the lilac, that would be great. So the lilac bush, that one of my lilac bushes, the biggest one, is right in the entrance, at the edge of the driveway. And I see this beautiful lilac bush as protection for our property. And when I sit with her, I feel that coming out of her pores almost, like she's there to protect and guard us. And at the same time, provide beauty and inspiration. So I got this just by sitting cross-legged in front of the bush and just allowing the beauty to come to me. And I didn't plant this bush, it was here. So someone else did it for me, and I'm very grateful. because I do love it. So that is one of my most beautiful, and the color is stunning. Color is just stunning. This is it's a lilac bush that reblooms throughout the summer. So I get really a lot of inspiration and love from it. So if you could go to the passion flower, that would be great. So my land is still in progress.
Is it the monarch butterfly, the hummingbird?
No.
Or the
No.
honeysuckle irises? I didn't get a passion flower.
Okay, never mind. I'm just going to tell the story then. I don't know why I didn't send the passion flower. So my way of picking what goes in my garden is a little willy-nilly. It depends on what appeals to me and when it appeals to me. So my dad passed away 2 years ago, and I wanted to plant something in my garden for him. And so I walked around the garden center and I saw these passion flower vines, which are absolutely magnificent. I'm sorry that I don't have the picture. They're like multidimensional flowers, and the bees love them. So I decided to plant a couple of passion flower vines in memory of my dad. And so every time I see these beautiful flowers and the bees pollinating them, I think of him. And I also created a passion flower oil, which is very relaxing. I tend to do that with some of my flowers, whatever calls to me. So, and then I want to say that what creates the new earth, besides love, is joy. So it's what brings you joy. And hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies bring me a great deal of joy. So the hummingbird, I planted, this is red lobelia. I also have blue lobelia, but you can see clearly the hummingbird loves the lobelia, and I love watching it. So, and then there's the honeysuckle as well, which I planted one vine several years ago, and now it's just profuse. And you can see the irises in the distance as well. So you can see the colors, and just everything is calling to nature. So that's what brings me joy. And then there was one more thing there, wasn't there? Oh, the monarch butterfly. I am passionate about monarch butterflies. I have milkweed throughout my property. I planted this butterfly weed, and you can see the butterfly loves the butterfly weed. And it's a magnificent color. It opens your sacral chakra and creativity. And it's just a joyous sight to behold. So for me, one of my favorite things to do is to go outside in the morning, even before I have my cup of tea. I go outside, since it's nice weather now, and I just walk around my front garden and I take in all the sights, all the colors, the sounds, everything that's going on, and I just take it into my soul. I absorb it, and it just is inspiring and fulfilling and the most magnificent thing that I can think of possibly doing. And I highly recommend that for all of you who are watching. And if you can further it by making flower essences or oils or, anything like that. I have lavender, I have bee balm and wild roses and a beautiful witch hazel tree. All these magnificent beings are willing to contribute of themselves so that we can be healthier emotionally and physically. So much gratitude to all of them and all of us.
So amazing. I love how you share too, like how much it feeds you, because I have that experience too. It's like the color and the smell and the energy of it. It's like it really is food. And a lot of times I think we need like a food item to eat, but really what we need is beauty. What we need is this color. What we need is that relationship that you've created. And just to share with others, like the land where you are, you're really building an amazing sanctuary for all the nature spirits and elementals and the powers, and there's vortexes. And just to share, during one of our land alchemy classes, we long distance etherically all went and met at the land, at Aliza's land in her gardens, at the portal there, and just had very powerful experiences of healing and connection and tuning into the elementals. And so I'm just to share that Aliza is really working, and I know BZ does this too, like as you work in the garden in these different ways, you're also opening to working with a lot of other spirits, if that's, if you're a light worker and doing that kind of work on certain lands, that those relationships are growing and forming and learning. And if you'd like to speak on that a little too, but I just felt like bringing that forward. It's these gardens co-creating with Gaia and these different spirits is like way more powerful, even as powerful as a garden and a plant and a flower is. And we're all essence makers and know that power that each plant holds, but also like what you're doing on this mountaintop, as you call it.
Yeah, my intention with this piece of land is to call in paradise, to invoke paradise. And in so doing, call it in to the entire planet through all the vortexes, through all the elementals, just through my heart. And anyone can do that. Anyone can do that. All you need is a small area, and the land, as long as it's loved and healed and whole, and it's brought into communion with all the beings that are connected with it, it magnifies all the love and the healing on this planet. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Thank you. Love that. Oh, I think you're muted.
I wanted to add to that too, you can, once you start to, wherever you're making this connection. Nope. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You kind of go in and out, but
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to add, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want, yeah, I wanted to add that as each being develops, if they have a patch of land or house plants or whatever it is, where you're really connecting, you're remembering your connection that's already there, and you're strengthening in that, and you're strengthening your listening muscles and being in the flow of creation. Then wherever you are, maybe you go to a picnic at someone else's house and, you know, tune into the grass and notice the trees or what's around. And as you're driving through, have you ever been someplace, oh, this is a lovely drive because of the woods, or maybe there's meadows. And when you're present and have the intention through an open heart to be in that flow wherever you're going, you're doing, again, what Aliza's talking about is that you're claiming your connection to the tapestry of Gaia and all that's going on. And by honoring that, right, by giving voice to that, by giving intention to that, by giving presence to it, you're enlivening everything, not only on the planet, within the planet, but in all of Source's multiverses. Because I'm a creator being. And yes, I realize that when I'm intentional and I'm from my heart, the sky, the galaxies, the multiverses are not even the limit. And you're stepping into the truth of who you are, and everything echoes and celebrates you doing that. And so that's when the fairies and the dragons and all sorts of things will love and delight in coming to dance with you in all different ways, and that ways that are unique and special to the way that you communicate.
Thank you. Somebody's going off. Woohoo! Okay, yay. All right. Well, and I kept thinking that word listening to Aliza, like intuitive gardening, you know, like really allowing from our heart, that's our intuition, right? Also our sacral, our solar plexus, our heart, our third eye, like there's different ways that we perceive and use our intuition. So it's different for each one of us, how we blend and use the different senses and ways.
Oh, can I just add one more thing? It just occurred to me from what you just said to also say, you know, I used to be one of those people who would be so frustrated that I couldn't see fairies. And now people see in different ways. So you need to really be with whatever way you are seeing. It's not just with your eyes. So just be with however it is that you're seeing.
Thank you. And that's a perfect lead in, because the whole idea of imagination, like imagination is the most important thing we can develop at this time, right? Because it develops our intuition, it develops our ability to co-create, to create, to see fairies. And yeah, I used to want to see them, and I do at times, but mostly I'm a feeler, like learning about yourself, how you navigate and work with the energies and how they blend together, and they can change. So yeah. So I want to talk about my unicorn garden. When I lived in Mosier, Oregon for 3 years, it was around 2017, that area. I was given an area on the hill that had been a vegetable and an herb garden. And so I ended up asking, it just came to me one day. I went out and prayed. I like to just go out and bring my drum and pray and ask and open to the spirits. And I just did that and asked the stars. Like I just felt compelled to ask the stars, I want to plant a garden for you. And don't ask me why I asked the stars, but that's what came in. So I did. I said, okay, stars, I want to plant a garden for you. What would you like me to plant? And then these different things would come in and come forward. including people that would give ideas too. And then my unicorn garden was born. I just want to show the kind of map that came forward to give you an idea. So this was a shape. It's pretty, I don't know how to say how big, but the herbs were there. And then I was guided to make these, I wanted to make keyhole gardens like they use. You can go inside and all the plants are around you. But then when I started making them, it kept saying, no, we want horseshoes. We want horseshoe shapes. So I ended up making horseshoes. And then a friend said, oh yeah, I can see that there wants to be elemental gardens. So each horseshoe became a different element and they wanted to be elemental gardens. And you could actually lay in the middle of each of these. They were that big. And I'll show you some more pictures, but there was just this opening through all these different intuitive ways that this garden wanted to have these 4 horseshoes that were also kind of like a horse standing there with each horseshoe from its print. But then there was like an evolution energy to this. Like this garden felt like it was a soul imprinting that was needed on this land at this time for Gaia, where I was planting these seeds of creation. And this garden wanted to anchor a certain energy in the earth as part of this new earth birthing. And so I realized that it was really about ascension, that it wasn't a horse anymore, that it became a unicorn. Like unicorns are ascended horses. So all of a sudden it became a unicorn garden because it was the ascension of the horses. And I'll pull up another photo of the garden. It's hard to get the whole thing, a picture of it, but this is sort of one of the things that happened during that. So I just started planting in these different areas, different plants that related to the different elements. And then some things came up on their own. These mullein just happened to be volunteers. And they, of course, happened to be in this perfect location, like next to each other, like a gateway. So I hung the rainbow things across them. So when you enter in, you could go through the mullein gateway. So a lot of magical things like that. I also did, see, oh, here's the, when you first came into the garden, that first horseshoe area, I would require that everyone that came to visit the garden had to bring an offering. They had to say thank you and ask to come in and be invited in. And even people that had nothing to do with any spirituality or didn't really get it, I just felt like I really want to honor the sacred space of this garden. It was kind of like a ship shape, like so it had this. I was sitting in there one time and with my friend, she goes, this is like a ship. It's like a mothership, this garden, because all around it was just kind of dried, in the summer especially, dried grass on the sunny hill. So we were sitting there and she goes, this is a mothership. I go, oh my God, this garden does have this energy of its own where it feels like it just carries this field of energy. And it also allows the grounding of a lot of this light codes and energy and cosmic energy that was coming from the stars and from the cosmic energy, as well as the elemental expression. So when people would come in, there was a little place they could get offerings, and they would have to go into that first horseshoe and come up to this baby unicorn statue and put an offering and say, hi, baby unicorn. I want to come visit your garden. And it was almost like required people to shed their adult masks and enter in a more playful, like heart-centered way. And it was such a cool thing, like watching what would happen with these people when they would do that just simple process of giving offering to this baby unicorn statue in the middle of all these flowers and on either side. And just see like, okay, something's shifting for everybody as I enter here. This is really really amazing. And it felt like it opened people to the healing and the energy of these plants and these places there. And then the other, definitely made a lot of essences there and put a lot of crystals around. This is some marigold. I don't know if I have really pictures of it, but in each of the horseshoes was the different element. And I decided to have fairy tea parties that were related to each element. And so like for the fire altar, we had a dragon tea party. And I actually had families come, adults and kids would come to it. And we would gather there. We would bring tons of offerings. And when we opened the space ceremonially for kind of opening the vortex in that, that horseshoe, the fire horseshoe, it was like dragons came from near and far. Like the mother dragon came in and she was licking everyone and different people were seeing her. And there was all this like energy from the fire. And so we were dancing and doing different things and giving offerings. And there's a whole story too about like them wanting beer and pink tulips to eat and cornmeal. Like they had very specific things they wanted to eat. So it was really funny. And so we're all the kids and us, or everyone's giving all this and just feeling like, wow, these dragons are hungry. These fire spirits are really hungry. So having this space in the garden where we fed these elementals, each different kind with these ceremonies and these fun events, like these elementals were just like, oh my gosh, like we're getting energy from this. We can like do more of our work. We can be honored and appreciated and graced with our, with this delight. And so then we do the process. I'm just gonna step out of the saving. For each one, we would do like the process of opening this, this altar to the energy. And it was so interesting because each one just felt like such a huge opening of the element. So the fire there. And I remember like the first one we did was the air elementals. And there's, we made sticks that had like flag things on them that could be, and bells, things that were like sound and that could blow in the wind. So we put those out on the garden, and I planted like butterfly weed and plants for the birds and butterflies and such. And like for that one, when we opened that, I just had this image afterwards. It's a little bit after the event. And then I just had this image like of a million butterflies just flooding out of this place in that horseshoe and just whoosh, flying all around. And I think for the fire one, it was more like opening the portal to allow connection more with the dragons for everybody. So they were used very, like this garden became a healing garden, a garden for connection. So people could come and just be there and you would receive what you needed, you know, whether that's elementally or the fairies, the gnomes were there, a big part of it, the mermaids for the water. So it was very magical. And there's some, I think, as you both have shared, like there's some really magical delight of just going into this garden, being present, like having time where you're not working in a garden. I know a lot of gardeners, we spend a lot of time working and, you know, digging and planting and weeding. And so I think it's like this garden felt so beautiful to just go and be there and sit or lay down or sleep in it, or have people gather there and have different ceremonies and such. And so, yeah, so it was just a really huge fulfillment for me. It was also part of what taught me a lot about land alchemy and doing different practices. Like this was one of the steps of opening to that and working very consciously with land. There was a lot of like teachings from the gnomes, like you could sit in the different areas, the different altars. And when I'd be in the earth one, the gnomes would come and I'd ask advice, business advice, and it would tell me like what color to make my website. And so it was really like this whole idea. I know people work with altars, that these were altars. And to me, when we find a place that wishes to be an altar, like there's that communication from spirit, from the land, and from us, the desire for connection, like making places that, or a place that's an altar that is a receiving place for both Mother Earth and Gaia and elementals, as well as for us, a communication place, a place of healing, a place of ritual, a place to gather people. So I think these different elemental places were altars that were teaching me about how to create spaces and places on land for more communication. And I think that intention, like we're talking, I loved how both of you talked about that. When you have that intention, you know, this is for the stars, and what is it? And then, oh, this is the unicorn garden, and other things came in. The bees came in one year and they said, we want you to work with us. So we want flowers for us. And so one year I planted that where the baby unicorn is, with all different flowers for the bees. And it was just gorgeous. And also putting out a little glass container or bowl with marbles in it with water, so the bees could come and get water without drowning. You know, they like to stand on something to drink. And so putting those out, and we made this big wire bee sculpture. So yeah, I think too, like it really taught like bringing that playfulness and fun, and making it childlike. Having a lot of kids come was super fun. And then the other piece too, if that's something you want to do, you know, with your garden, is having events and parties and tea parties. I always get really excited, just that word tea party with the fairies, is that we made food that was related to whatever the air, like for the air one, I had fruit, but I had whipped cream. So it's like very airy, and rice cakes, those crackers that are airy, right? And then for the fire, oh my God, everyone brought food, and we had the most amazing, like everything was like super bright red or orange, or it was like watermelon, and those cupcakes, those velvet ones that are really red. And all different food that was like very fiery, very either spicy or very colorful. And it just seemed to be a really fun way to engage with the garden. And at the same time that it was really playful and fun, there was like so much power in it. You know, the power that of creating these fields of energy. So much I think is needed right now too, for bringing more joy and playfulness and lightness and the sweetness of nature. So I think how we can, you know, create that with different fairies and beings. And I guess just to add that to that, like I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't really see gnomes. Are they real? Or I don't really know about the fairies. Like a lot of people are super gardeners, and like they are gnomes already, or they are fairies already. Like you may carry that you are it. So that's why you don't necessarily see them outside yourself. And then others that don't necessarily have that connection like we do, of seeing, you know, having these different relationships with different elementals and fairy spirits, that yeah, just however it is for you that it comes. It may not be that you specifically see gnomes, but if you open your imagination, use your intuition and go, you know, I really want to work with the gnomes, like in the garden, or work with the rocks and crystals. And they love all that. They love to really highlight rocks in the garden and crystals. And they gave me an elaborate thing about what they wanted in the garden. It was like turquoise and apophyllite and a little doorway and a little area of colored stones. And so like if you can like open more to that, like things that seem random and weird, it's like, no, that might be your intuition, like the gnomes saying, oh yeah. And the latest one from the gnomes, I did a walk recently, and this is the second time it's come in. So just for your garden, if you want to do this, they really love, they're not marbles because they're flat on one side, but they're like glass, little pieces of glass that are very bright colors, red, green, yellow. And I haven't really been able to find them totally, but the gnomes love them and they want them placed in the forests and the gardens, even in the wild ones, which, you know, I don't want to litter and put things in the wild forest, but if that comes in, they especially want the red ones, you know, little red glass baubles, we were calling them. So that came in when I did a little forest walk recently. Came back in for the second time. So there's fun things that the spirits can bring forward. And sometimes we don't even know that it's a fairy or spirit telling us, that we just have this seamless feeling. I kind of call it seamless communication, where we aren't aware necessarily of, you know, the unicorns or any of the spirits, but we just feel compelled, like, oh my God, I got to get this for the garden, or I have to have this plant there, or I have to move one of the plants to a different place. Like just let sort of the pull of those impulses pull you along and create that flow and that dance. And that often is those spirits of your garden telling you, and just each one of us has a different way. So
I just wanted to say one thing to add to everything that we've all spoken about the imagination. So
yeah.
some people think, well, it's just my imagination, like somehow that's discounted or it's not real, or because of that it won't ever become touchable or tangible. And there's nothing more powerful and more full and ripe of creative energy than your imagination. That's, you know, everything we see out there doesn't get out there, or that's how things actually work. And if we're not intentional about it, then we get a lot of stuff out there that we really don't like. Because we've been sloppy in we're creator beings. We're always creating. So it's helpful if you do it from your heart and from a choosing, you know, from an awareness, from an intentional. So when you play with your imagination and you really, you know, think about kind of turning the spigot on and let it be free for a moment. You can shut it right back and go to just linear and focused if you need to. But when you tune into that, that's how you create all things that you want in your life, whether it's smoother relationships in life or at work or a new job or whatever different things. It has to come from in here through your asking for it. And you're asking all the time. So if one is saying, I don't like what Aliza was doing, I really am annoyed that there are all these weeds. And, you know, frankly, enough is enough, right? Well, then she was getting more weeds that were annoying her because she's that good and that powerful and that creative. So, and it's same with everything else, you know, in life. So play with that and play with the imagination.
Yeah.
And play with that wonder of it. It's like diving into some really lovely for a moment and let those things come to you. And whether it's a garden or anything else that you're doing, that imagination is your river, your paint box, right? Your whole creative conduit to start to put things on the tangible touchableness of your canvas of life. And you've got it all going on already. Just let that happen.
Yeah, I just was listening to a video recently, and it was just that reminder, just like what you're saying, how, and even about your whole life, like what really be intentional. Like, what do you want to experience for the rest of your life? Like, what do you want to create? And like the more intentional. So I think that's a beautiful way to approach a garden, right? Or approach a land, or approach building something with nature is, what do I want to create? Do I want to have that experience? I think my soul was calling me, like I really wanted that experience. I'm a kind of land walker or earth walker. So I have lived all these different places and didn't always have a chance to have a garden and do that. And so I think my soul was like very intentional, like, Camilla, you got to ground and you have to have a garden and you have to do that experience. And even now I don't really have a garden where I live. And I was like, I can't live here. There's no garden. There's nowhere to garden. And my neighbor right next door has this huge garden and she's doing all these things. So I go over there and garden with her. And then I have a community garden. I work with a group of, there's 7 of us and we work together in a garden. So there's ways too that you can create community with gardens.
Yeah.
I would add also to take note of what is happening when you are gardening, like what is coming up for you as you are gardening, because those are life lessons. You know, just as you want to create with intention, you want to also experience with intention. So those things that are coming up, pay attention to, because they need attention.
Yeah. That's beautifully said, because really the most important thing we can do is turn to nature for teachings, wisdom, and guidance right now. That's, I think, where the healing is most needed in our disconnected world. So, yay. Well, I'm so excited to talk about gardening with Gaia and like how magical and it can be such a teaching for us, such a healing, such fulfillment, and be of such service to Gaia. Like some people think, oh, I want to do more, but you can intend that the work you do in your garden and the walks you take outside and how you engage with nature is very important for each one of us. Each one of us carries very unique gifts, a very specific essence. And so that gets infused in our gardens and in the land with these different elementals and beings. So the importance of this co-creative weaving that's, yes, about us and our lives, but then is with the plants and the gardens and the people and places, so, and the waters as well. So thank you. And just want to give a little space if there's any final kind of comments or thoughts, and also to share, you know, if people want to get a hold of each one of us, see what we're kind of up to with in our worlds. We can leave a little space for sharing from each of you. And I'll leave information too in the description about how to get hold of all of us as well. Aliza, you want to go first?
Sure. So my website is alizamusleah.com. You can't find this information in my website yet because I do other types of healing. But I did study land healing with Camilla, and I love doing it. So that's my website. My email is alizamusleah.com, ALIZAMUSLEAH, @gmail.com. And I think that's about it.
Yeah. And you're in New Jersey,
I'm in
and
New
so
Jersey.
you can do both things locally and also regionally, and then also long distance, right?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great. Yeah, so many gifts you offer, and I love your work with sound and color and just very light, beautiful, and also your light language, you know, doing that. So You have so many
Yeah,
beautiful gifts to
I mean, that's
offer.
definitely a big part of the sound. As I said before, the sound is a
Yeah,
big part of my healing.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining and bringing your sparkly self here.
Thank you.
And busy.
Yeah, you can reach me at my website, Living Life in HD, just the two initials HD.com. And it's the email address is bz@livinglifeinhd.com. And I would say that to give an overall capture of the work that I do, it's light alchemy. So it's the light within you through work with the elementals in gardening and land, but also in how you're honoring your own brilliance and perhaps letting it bloom as if for the very first time. And what are the spirituality in action, right? What are the ways that you balance walking on this physical world with your multidimensional self? Or what are the ways you would like to do that, whether it's in your life or in your business, or in co-creating something? And that would be the holding, the healing, and the various mechanisms that I have to play and work with people.
Nice. Yeah, it's been such a delight to work with you as well, and very powerful person. And I love too what you can really bring people to help them through your visioning, like you're seeing videos and being able to really hold a space, sacred space, and help people get those kind of visions, the visionary energy. So, and I know that's just a piece of it, but there's a lot you have to offer. So thank you so much for bringing yourself here, being with us.
Yeah. Oh, and I do things remotely, and I actually am in my own life, not only the name of my business and what I do, but I am living my life in HD, and that is in a dance with not only high density and high definition, but the higher dimensions and the higher design of what we're all here to contribute and co-create. So
Yeah.
we're mobile.
Yeah.
And doing that
Yay.
and exploring that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yay. So, and I'm Camilla Blossom, and I have lots of different offerings that you can see at my website, camillablossom.com. I also just started a new Patreon community, and it's about visioning the new earth. So it's like this, what we're talking about, how we can really work with Gaia, work with elementals, build those co-creative relationships to create and be in these new realms of Gaia, that some of them we're kind of learning how to navigate, being co-creators, being masters, moving forward in that purpose, and how we can do that. I also have land honoring courses for if you're just getting started, and also courses that like BZ and Aliza took with me, that's an advanced training in working with land alchemy, light alchemy. Yeah, and do sessions and remote and in person in Vancouver, Washington. So I'd love to connect with all of you, and I'm just really am so thrilled to have this opportunity to play and to bring forward these beautiful inspiration and ideas for Gaia and for our gardening. And I know I can see whenever I do like a good job at something, I'll see the fairy and elemental realms like cheering in the background at the end, like, yay, thank you, thank you. So like to know that a lot of the work for, I think, all of us and a lot of you out there, it isn't always about us. I mean, it is what brings us happiness, but the importance of each one of us to allow what wants to come through us and be expressed.
Right.
Because that is really the being of service to this awakening of Gaia. it's not so much the me, it's the we. So thank you.
Right. Absolutely.